If your positivity collapses the moment life pushes back, is it truly spiritual or only sugar-coated? Breathe with me for a moment and notice the weight your chest has been carrying, the breath that never quite lands, the whisper that asks whether your faith can hold on a bad day. I see how you keep showing up, how you pray or journal or try to focus, and yet the noise still rises, the same worry returns, the same cycle repeats. You're not broken, you're not behind. You are simply ready for a sturdier foundation, one that welcomes the truth, trains the mind and lights the soul from within. There is a way to be positive without pretending, a way to be hopeful without denying the data, a way to stand still when the ground beneath you trembles. Solomon called it wisdom, guarding the heart because everything in life flows from there, not guarding with walls of denial, but with gates of discernment. Not a smile that hides the storm, but a lamp that keeps burning when the storm arrives. Today, we walk that path slowly. We slow the breath, we slow the mind, and we listen for what is wise rather than what is loud. I will not hurry you. I will not shame you. I will meet you where you are and help you rise step by steady step. Some days you wake with a clear sky inside, and some days it's all thunder. On the thunder days, you may wonder if your faith failed, if your mindset was too fragile, if your efforts were a waste. But storms do not indict the sky, they feed the soil. There is a season for everything, Solomon wrote, a time to weep and a time to laugh, and the wisdom is to know what time it is and to respond with courage. This is practical spirituality. This is emotional neuroscience in service of the soul. Your thoughts shape your chemistry. Your words steer your attention. Your community wires your nervous system. When we honor these truths, positivity is no longer a mask. It becomes muscle. It becomes a practiced strength that carries you. Tonight or tomorrow or next week, you will face the same trigger that has visited you 100 times. This time we will greet it differently. Think of your mind as a set of city gates, not a marketplace where anything wanders in, but a guarded entrance where what is true, useful, and aligned may pass, and what is frantic, false, or corrosive must stop and answer questions. We begin by noticing, by naming, by asking, what just arrived at my gate, and who gave it permission? We are not chasing perfection. We are training presence. We are teaching the mind to serve the spirit rather than the other way around. As we walk, you will hear a quiet rhythm repeating beneath everything. Think true, speak wise, walk with the wise. Think true, so the inner weather can shift without lying about the clouds. Speak wise, because the tongue directs the body and sets a tone in every room you enter. Walk with the wise, because your circle is not background scenery. It is part of your nervous system. Strategic repetition is not a trick here. It is a gentle metronome that helps your mind learn a new song. The more we practice, the more your body recognizes safety. The more your heart remembers courage, the more your hope stops begging and starts building. I want you to sense the tools we'll place in your hands before we lift them together. You will learn to frame your thoughts like a craftsman checks his scales. Honest weights, no inflation, no shortcuts. You will learn to treat sorrow as rain that waters a garden rather than a leak that ruins the floor, and you will know what to do after the rain stops. You will build daily rituals that keep turning like a water wheel, small and ordinary and astonishingly powerful over time. And you will lift your eyes to a horizon that outlasts your mood, laying stone upon stone as if building a house with pillars, a house that shelters you now and blesses those who come after you. You are not asked to do everything at once. You are invited to do the next wise thing again and again until the path becomes yours. Feel your feet where you are. Feel your shoulders settle by a single inch. Let the breath arrive all the way down. With every inhale, we gather our scattered pieces. With every exhale, we release what does not belong. This is spiritual. This is practical. This is where your mind learns its rightful place and your spirit finds its steady flame. In a moment, we will begin our first step through the gate, We will not rush. We will work with truth, not fight it. We will choose strength over performance, clarity over noise, wisdom over hurry. Stay with me. Let the words slow you. Let the quiet teach you. By the end of this journey, your positivity will not need a stage or a script. It will sit quietly within you, tested, trained, and unshakable. There are days when your optimism feels like a thin coat of sugar on something bitter, and the first hard moment of the morning washes it away. You wake with hope, then a single message, a single delay, a single memory, and the hope dissolves. What if your positivity did not need perfect weather to survive? What if it could hold its shape in the wind? Wisdom is the difference. Not the kind that hides from data, but the kind that reads the data and stays steady. Not the smile that says everything is fine, but the inner posture that whispers, we will meet this moment with truth and grace. The sages spoke of guarding the heart because everything in life flows from it. Picture a walled city at dawn. The gates are strong, the guards are awake, and nothing passes without being seen. Your mind is that gate. Your heart is that inner city. Positivity is not a performance there. It is stewardship. It is the quiet duty of gatekeepers who welcome what strengthens and pause what weakens. Pretending is not a guard. Denial is not a guard. Discernment is a guard, and so is patience, and so is proportion. When these stand at the entrance, the city within remains supplied. Even when the hills outside are burning, there is a pivot that changes the weight of a day. It is the move from I must feel good to I must think true. The first sentence makes you chase a mood. The second makes you serve reality with wisdom. When you reach for the first sentence, you tighten your jaw and exhaust your nervous system because the body cannot manufacture joy on command. When you practice the second sentence, your breath returns to depth and your shoulders drop by a quiet measure because the body responds to clarity with relief. Thinking true does not squeeze out feeling. It gives feeling a frame strong enough to stand. Thinking true has a simple rhythm that strengthens the mind. There is the bare fact, there is the meaning you assign to it, and there is the response that serves your values. The mind confuses these pieces when fear is loud. The fact is, the email arrived late. The meaning you attach might be, I am being ignored, or I'm losing ground. The response shaped by wisdom could be a direct question, or patient silence that gathers more data, or a calm plan for the afternoon. When you place these three on the table in their proper order, the story slows down, and your body understands that it is safe to choose. There is another rhythm that keeps the gate strong. Imagine an honest scale held by a steady hand. Every thought that approaches the gate rests on that scale. Is it accurate? Is it useful? Is it aligned with my deepest commitments? If a thought fails the first question, it is a rumor and cannot be trusted. If it fails the second, it may be accurate but not helpful in this hour. If it fails the third, it may be clever, but it will fracture your peace. The scale is not harsh. It is kind. It does not punish. It clarifies. And in the body, clarity often feels like gentle warmth behind the ribs. You may worry that this strength will turn you into stone. The opposite happens. When the inner city is guarded, tenderness flourishes inside its walls. You can hear your own grief without being drowned by it. You can admit real disappointment without collapsing into it. You can name a desire without letting it rule you. This is the sweetness that does not dissolve. This is the smile that does not need an audience. Your chemistry settles. Your breath begins to move like a slow tide. Your face softens, not from pretending but from truth carried well. There will be voices at the gate that sound familiar. An old fear asks to be let in. An old story insists that you are behind. A picture of the worst case taps its foot and demands attention. The guards do not shout. They ask questions. Is this accurate? Is this useful right now? Is this aligned with the person I am becoming? Sometimes the answer is yes, and the visitor enters with respect. Sometimes the answer is no, and the visitor waits outside until it learns new manners. Over time, even the most persistent voices change tone, because a wise city trains its visitors. Think true, speak wise, walk with the wise. Let the words move through you like a steady drum. Think true, and your mind stops pretending and starts perceiving. Speak wise, and your words become a shelter for you and for others, not a storm. Walk with the wise, and you discover that your circle is part of your nervous system, sending signals of courage or signals of chaos all day long. This repetition is not decoration. It rewires attention. It gives your heart something simple and strong to hold when the world pulls in 20 directions. You may remember times when you tried to stay positive and felt shallow. That memory is not a verdict. It is a teacher. It shows you the difference between holding a pose and inhabiting a practice. Holding a pose drains you because it fights what is present. Inhabiting a practice strengthens you because it works with what is present and guides it toward order. When you tire of the pose, you are ready for the practice. The gate becomes real. The guards stop being metaphors and become habits. The city begins to thrive. From here, a question waits at the threshold between thought and speech and action. Which recurring thought comes to your gate without permission, and which new guard will stand there now? There is a hidden network that shapes your mindset long before a thought finishes its first sentence. It lives in the privacy of your thoughts, in the temperature of your words, and in the company you keep. What moves through these three paths becomes the climate inside you. Your mind is not a sealed room. It is a living city with open roads, and what travels those roads will either nourish your strength or drain it. When your gains seem to vanish overnight, it is often because one of these gatekeepers fell asleep on duty. Begin with the inner narrator that speaks before your mouth ever opens. A thought is not just an idea, it is a signal to your body. It can tighten your jaw or soften your shoulders. It can quicken your breath or lengthen it. When a thought is driven by fear, it floods the system with alarm, and then the day starts to echo that alarm. When a thought is shaped by wisdom, it steadies the body, and the body helps the mind return to clarity. This is where emotional life and practical spirituality meet. Your inner speech trains your nervous system to expect either danger or dignity. Now listen to the tongue. Words leave the body and then return to it. They carve grooves in attention. They gather evidence for themselves. Harsh words recruit more harshness. Wise words recruit more wisdom. This is not decoration. It is the way a life forms. Solomon taught that whoever walks with the wise becomes wise, and the one who keeps company with foolishness is harmed. Your speech is the bridge between your intention and your environment. It does not only describe reality, it helps build it brick by brick. Some people explore a quiet experiment with their speech and are surprised by the peace that follows. For a stretch of days, they treat complaining as an unhelpful guest. They refuse to curse themselves with labels that shrink the soul. They stop using cutting jokes that leave small wounds. The world does not become perfect in that interval. Something else happens. The body finally experiences the home field advantage of gentler language, and the mind discovers it can stay with the facts without adding poison to them. When words heal, attention heals. When attention heals, choice is open. The third gatekeeper lives in your circle. Your community is not background decoration. It is part of your nervous system. Sit with the anxious for long enough, and your breath begins to copy their rhythm. Sit with the peaceful for long enough, and your heart learns the pattern of their steadiness. This is simple biology and deep wisdom at the same time. Many people find that when they quietly drift toward companions who lift their standards, the inner dialogue grows cleaner. When they release constant contact with those who normalize mediocrity, the body stops bracing for impact. There is a gentle way to weigh these influences. Picture a set of honest scales that care about truth and mercy in equal measure. Place a thought on the scale and test its accuracy, its usefulness, and its alignment with your deepest commitments. Place a sentence on the scale before it leaves your mouth and feel whether it will build or break, whether it is timely or premature, whether it is proportionate or exaggerated. Place a relationship on the scale and notice whether you leave their presence clearer or more confused, lighter or more clenched. The scale does not shame, it reveals. In the body, revelation often feels like warmth returning to cold hands. Pressure will come, and when it does, the question inside you becomes a compass. What is the wise sentence I will release now? Not the clever sentence, not the cutting sentence, the wise sentence. Sometimes the wisest sentence is a few calm words that steady the room. Sometimes the wisest sentence is silence that makes space for truth to arrive without force. The point is not performance. The point is integrity between what you believe and what your mouth builds. This trinity of influence works together. Thoughts prepare the path, words lay the stones. Tribe becomes the atmosphere in which you walk. When the atmosphere is clean, even sorrow can breathe. When the path is firm, even conflict can be faced without collapse. You can disagree without poison. You can correct without contempt. You can hold grief without losing your joy. This is what it means for spirituality to be practical. It touches the nervous system. It teaches the body the shape of peace. There will be days when you hear an old script rise in your head and you feel the old pull to speak in a way that injures the moment. There will be lunches or meetings where a familiar voice tries to sell you on smallness again. You will notice the tug, you will feel the chemistry, and then something new will appear, a steadier rhythm, a slower breath, a mind that remembers it has a gate, a tongue that remembers it can bless the situation with clarity, a heart that remembers it can choose company that calls out its best. Think true, speak wise, walk with the wise. Let the words become a quiet bell through the day. The more this bell sounds, the more your inner city chooses what enters and what stays outside. Over time, the gatekeepers grow skilled. They do not need to shout. They recognize the pattern and respond with grace. This is how spirituality matures into resilience. Not through spectacle, through custody of what thinks, what speaks, and what surrounds. A simple question now rises like a lantern in the evening. Who sharpens my clarity and who dulls it? Which boundary would honor wisdom today? There are mornings when the soul wakes with a bruise it cannot trace. A song plays in the other room of your mind, and it is all minor keys. You look intact from the outside, yet inside there is a quiet collapse where expectations once stood. Many people try to cover this ache with a quick coat of sunshine, then wonder why the shine fades by midday. Wisdom offers a gentler path, not the path of denial, the path of reverence for truth. Sorrow does not disprove your faith. Sorrow proves you are alive and still capable of love. The ancient teacher spoke of a season for everything, a time to weep and a time to laugh, not as opposites that cancel each other, but as partners that keep the heart honest. When tears are forbidden, they do not disappear. They harden. They turn to pressure behind the eyes and weight in the chest. When tears are welcomed, they soften the ground. The nervous system recognizes safety. Breathing returns to depth. Shoulders lower by a breath or two. What felt like a flood begins to find its banks. Practical spirituality begins here, where emotion is honored and then guided, not ignored and then inflamed. There is a simple movement that many discover in the quiet. First, the loss is named, the missed chance, the broken promise, the change that arrived without permission. Then the fear is named, the fear of being left behind, the fear of never mending, the fear of being seen as weak. Finally, a small next step is chosen that respects reality and preserves dignity. This is not a show. It is not a performance for an audience. It is a conversation with truth in a room where your breath can be heard. Naming diffuses confusion. Choosing restores agency. Together they protect joy from turning brittle. Honest sorrow requires wise boundaries. Not every ear can hold what your heart is carrying. Some listeners turn pain into entertainment. Some lace every confession with their own anxiety until the room tilts. There is mercy in choosing confidence who can hold weight without dropping it. There is mercy in keeping sacred things within sacred spaces. When pain is shared with those who honor it, shame loosens its grip. When pain is scattered to crowds that do not understand, the wound deepens and the spirit grows guarded. This is not secrecy. This is stewardship of the soul. The body speaks in sensations long before the mind finds language. Heartbeat rises, jaw tightens, hands cool or warm. A nameless heaviness settles like weather. As soon as sorrow is named, chemistry begins to shift. Muscles release a fraction. Breath finds length. Focus returns like a bird to its branch. Emotional science has words for this, yet the experience is simple. Clarity calms the animal inside us. Confusion alarms it. Lament gives clarity a path. It sorts the threads until the knot begins to loosen. Many have noticed a quiet restoration that follows honest tears. After the naming and the choosing, there comes a small act of order. A bed is made with slow hands. A desk is cleared until the surface shows its face again. A sink is rinsed until the water runs clear. These small repairs do not solve every question. They tell the body that life still moves forward and that beauty is still welcome here. Order is a form of hope that can be touched. Hope is a form of order that can be felt. Together they whisper to the mind that the storm has edges and that shelter is near. There is a common fear that if sorrow is allowed, it will never stop. The opposite is more faithful to reality. What is resisted grows teeth. What is received finds its shape and passes through. Tears have their own intelligence. They know when the message has been delivered. They know when the heart has heard what needed to be heard. When sorrow is given a dignified channel, joy does not disappear. Joy returns matured. Joy returns with roots. It becomes less about excitement and more about assurance. It no longer depends on weather or applause. It breathes under grey skies. The image of a garden after rain holds the truth with tenderness. The rain looks like ruin while it is falling. Soil turns to mud. Paths vanish. Everything bends. Then the light changes, and the same water becomes nourishment. Leaves lift. Colors deepen. Air grows sweet. The garden did not fail because it was wet. The garden lived because it could drink. So it is with the soul. The heart that can drink its sorrow can keep living. The heart that refuses water grows brittle and breaks under a smaller weight. The wisdom of lament is not theatrical. It is not loud. It is a steady ritual of honesty that saves energy for the work of the day. It preserves compassion. It preserves perspective. It preserves connection with others, because unprocessed pain is the source of so much unnecessary harshness. When grief is tended, kindness can stand again. When grief is ignored, sarcasm moves in and calls itself strength. The gentle become firm without cruelty. The firm become gentle without losing clarity. This is how sorrow protects joy. This is how spirituality becomes practical and strong. There is a rhythm worth remembering when the air grows heavy. Name the loss, name the fear, choose one step. This is not a command. It is a lamp in a hallway. Some days the lamp is enough. Some days the hallway is long, and the lamp outlasts the walk. Either way, the heart learns to trust its own process, and the mind learns that truth is not an enemy. By evening, a quiet pride appears. Not the pride of pretending, but the pride of having walked through the weather with integrity. A gentle question rises like clear water in a glass. What sorrow needs a name today, so your joy can be honest again? Some days the mind wakes like a clear lake at sunrise. Other days it wakes like a river after heavy weather, fast and muddy and loud. A life of wisdom is not built on perfect mornings. It is built on a steady pattern that keeps turning no matter the forecast. This is the quiet strength of liturgy, not ceremony for show. A rhythm that holds you when enthusiasm fades and brings you home when distraction pulls. Wisdom praises the one who listens and keeps watch day by day at the doorway of understanding, not rushing, returning, showing up with a faithful heart until the path beneath your feet becomes familiar even in the dark. There is a simple architecture that many souls discover, a beginning that sets the tone of the day, a middle that renews the course when the world has already spoken too loudly, a closing that gathers the hours and learns from them. The beauty of this structure is its mercy. It does not demand heroic effort. It asks for presence. It asks for honesty. It asks for a few small acts repeated with love, like the turning of a water wheel that lifts each cup of river and pours it where it can give life. The smallest rotations, performed again and again, power an entire countryside. The opening of the day is a doorway. The mind is most impressionable in that first quiet stretch, when the world has not yet crowded in. Many people choose a short passage of wisdom that meets them where they are and invites a higher view. They shape a single governing sentence that will serve as a gentle rail to hold. Not a slogan, a promise or a principle that tells the mind which way is north. Then there is a moment of stillness without performance, a minute that belongs to no one else. Breath returns to depth. The inner room is aired out. The heart remembers it is not alone. By the middle of the day, the noise has multiplied. Requests stack up. Frustrations begin to gather. It is here that the liturgy of renewal has its power. Many find that a few quiet moments to revisit the morning sentence can rescue a drifting afternoon. The next portion of the day is planned with clear eyes rather than adrenaline. Gratitude is spoken in simple words for something small that is undeniably good. This is not denial of difficulty. It is a rebalancing of the scales so that the mind sees the whole picture and the body remembers it is safe enough to choose the next wise step. As evening draws near, the ancient practice of exam becomes a tender teacher. The day is set out on a simple table of truth. Where did I align with the wisdom I claim to love? Where did I drift away? No drama, no self-accusation, only clarity that becomes kindness because it opens the door to repair. A phrase of apology may be prepared for tomorrow. A boundary is pictured more clearly. A moment of quiet gratitude marks the places where grace held. Sleep receives a cleaner heart. The mind loosens its grip. The body understands that it can let the night carry what the day could not complete. This pattern is small enough to fit inside the busiest life and strong enough to carry the heaviest season. Its strength comes from repetition. Neuroscience quietly agrees with ancient wisdom here. What is repeated becomes easier to repeat. Pathways form. Attention returns more quickly. The stress response stops dictating the entire day and begins to share the stage with calm. The soul learns that faithfulness does not depend on a mood spike. It depends on a few trustworthy motions performed with care. Over time, those motions write themselves into muscle memory, and the inner atmosphere changes. Some worry that routines will make life rigid. In truth, the right routine makes life supple. It frees attention to notice beauty because the basic structure is already decided. It protects energy for creativity because the mind is not negotiating the same choices again and again. It makes room for deep feeling because the container is sturdy. Joy does not have to shout to be heard. Sorrow does not have to flood to be acknowledged. The house stands, and within its rooms you can sing and weep and work and rest without losing your place. Picture the water wheel at the edge of a quiet village. Each cup lifts only a small measure, yet the millstone turns, grain becomes flour, families are fed. This is the image of daily liturgy, small turns that nourish a larger life, the opening that points you toward wisdom, the renewal that corrects your course, the closing that learns and releases. When a storm comes, the wheel still turns. When a drought threatens, the wheel turns with what the river offers. Faithfulness outlasts weather. The city within remains supplied. There is a soft joy that grows around habits like these. It is not the joy of fireworks. It is the joy of knowing where to stand when the wind picks up. It is the knowledge that you have a sentence to hold when the mind begins to spin. It is the relief of a brief silence that belongs to no one's demands. It is the pride of laying your head down having told yourself the truth. The heart becomes trustworthy to itself, and that trust is the beginning of courage. The beauty of a liturgy is that it can be carried anywhere. In a crowded apartment, it lives in the breath and the sentence. In a quiet house, it lives in a chair by a window and the pages of a worn book. In a hospital, it lives in the warmth of a hand and the kindness of a whispered prayer. The shape remains. The spirit remains, the humility remains, and the strength that grows from such humility can surprise you with its steadiness. A gentle question waits like a lamp on the table. Which small daily ritual will move the biggest lever in your mindset? There is a pattern many notice after years of trying to stay positive through willpower alone. Mornings begin with light, afternoons grow heavy, and months slip by without the deep change the heart longs for. The mood rises and falls like weather, and the life beneath it keeps the same shape. Legacy thinking shifts the foundation. It anchors your mind in a purpose that outlives the day and outlives the season, a purpose that keeps building even when emotions move like tides. When positivity serves something larger than comfort, it becomes resilient, and when resilience serves something larger than self, it becomes wisdom. Picture a house with pillars set into bedrock. The storm can darken the sky, the wind can test the doors, yet the structure remains because it was built with a horizon in mind. Legacy is this horizon. It asks what kind of lineage your choices are creating, whether you have heirs of blood or heirs of spirit, whether the work of your hands and the tone of your words will bless those who stand where you once stood. When the question broadens in this way, small decisions regain their dignity and hard days regain their meaning, because every faithful brick belongs to a future room. A wise life learns to hold more than one horizon at once. There is the step immediately under your feet. There is a near horizon where weeks and months gather, and there is a far horizon that stretches beyond your lifetime. When these three speak to each other, the day no longer feels like an isolated island. The step you take now becomes a message to the coming season. The habits you hold this season become a foundation for those who come after you. The mind is steadied because it sees continuity, and the body is comforted because it can feel that continuity in the rhythm of choice after choice. Identity shapes endurance. Many find strength in a quiet sentence that names who they are and why they act, when ease would be simpler. The words are not for performance. They are a promise to the soul. I am the kind of person who keeps a clear conscience because my lineage needs models of integrity. I am the kind of person who repairs what I can because my lineage needs builders, not critics. I am the kind of person who honors truth with tenderness because my lineage needs courage that does not wound. When identity is spoken with reverence, behavior begins to align, not from pressure but from belonging. A wise rhythm emerges when legacy is honored on the calendar of an ordinary life. Some set aside a quiet day each month to look at the pillars of their house with clear eyes. Resources are reviewed with gratitude and intention. Relationships are seen as living treasures and living responsibilities. Skills are treated as seeds that must be planted and multiplied, not hoarded in a drawer. This is not the harsh audit of a perfectionist. It is the gentle stewardship of a gardener who knows that fruit follows seasons and that a patient hand makes a vineyard strong. The nervous system relaxes when life points beyond the self. Urgency loses its bite. Impulses lose their throne. The brain's alarms grow quieter because they are no longer asked to defend a fragile ego every hour. They are invited to serve a mission that makes sense of discomfort and dignifies sacrifice. Even grief changes texture in this light. Loss is still loss, and tears still belong, yet meaning wraps around the pain and keeps it from turning to bitterness. Joy becomes less about excitement and more about assurance. The assurance that the work you are doing inside your own heart will shelter others as the years turn. Short-term thinking is seductive because it promises quick relief. Legacy thinking is faithful because it promises honest roots. It refuses to be rushed by comparison or by shame. It refuses to be distracted by the noise of those who measure worth only by spotlight and applause. It speaks softly and carries weight. It builds rooms you may never enter and leaves food on tables where you may never sit. And somehow, this knowledge makes today's effort easier to bear. The soul is lifted by the thought that goodness can travel farther than a single lifetime. Think true, speak wise, walk with the wise. When these three serve a legacy, the inner city grows orderly. Truth becomes a pillar, mercy becomes a pillar, discipline becomes a pillar. Between them, a roof of peace takes shape. And under that roof, feelings can change without wrecking the structure. You still feel the weather. You no longer fear it. Your mindset is no longer a stage for moods. It is a house where they may visit, but they do not rule. In the quiet that follows, a tender question arrives like morning light along a floor. What decision today becomes a gift with your name on it 2 generations from now? We have walked among gates and scales and gardens and wheels and houses with pillars, and now the strands begin to weave into one living fabric. Integration is not a push. It is a gentle gathering. It is the way a life learns to keep what is wise close at hand, so that even on an ordinary morning, the soul remembers its tools without reaching for effort that exhausts. Practical spirituality becomes a rhythm that breathes with you, a pattern of attention that steadies the day before the day decides its own weather. A quiet day of integration often begins with one sentence that sets the inner compass. Not a slogan for display, a sentence your heart believes. Breath deepens as the mind rests under that sentence. Later, when the noise rises, the sentence returns like a handrail along a staircase. Plans are adjusted with clear eyes, and the scale of attention is set back to honest. Evening arrives, and the mind lays its loudest thought on the simple scale that asks for truth, for usefulness, for alignment with what matters most. Sleep finds a cleaner path when the inner city closes its gate with care. Thoughts, tongue, and tribe now move in concert rather than in competition. The inner narrator grows kinder and more precise, and the body mirrors that precision with steadier signals. Words become a shelter that you can live inside. Relationships form an atmosphere that helps courage breathe without forcing itself. Boundaries appear as quiet lines that honor love rather than walls that punish. In such air, the nervous system begins to recognize home, and positivity grows roots that do not tear with the first gust of wind. Sorrow keeps its honored place within this rhythm. When grief rises, it is given language and a safe room where it can be heard. After the naming comes a small act of order that tells the body life is still moving forward. The garden after rain remains the image. What once felt like a flood begins to look like water that knows how to feed the roots. Joy returns without apology. It arrives not as a performance, but as a quiet strength that allows kindness to stand up straight. Legacy becomes the horizon that gives shape to choices inside the day. Small actions speak across seasons when they are aligned with who you are becoming and who might shelter under the house you are building. The mind begins to see continuity where it used to see only fragments. The heart senses that every honorable choice places a brick in a wall that others may lean on when their weather turns. Imagine a short span of days shaped by this fabric. Morning opens with a sentence that keeps you oriented. Midday remembers and adjusts without drama. Evening learns without shame and releases what cannot be carried into the night. Across the hours, the gatekeepers remain gentle and alert. The garden drinks what falls from the sky. The wheel turns with quiet fidelity. The house with pillars stands and offers shade. This is how a mindset becomes unshakable without becoming hard. It bends when bending is wise. It stands when standing is kind. It listens without losing itself. It speaks without wounding. It walks with companions who call out its best, and it returns that favor. The city within remains supplied because the small rotations continue, unmoved by applause, undisturbed by mood. Think true, speak wise. Walk with the wise. Let these words become the soft bell that guides your steps through the day and brings you back to yourself when you drift. When the rhythm holds, spirituality stops begging for perfect conditions and starts building a life that blesses the imperfect conditions you will surely meet. A final question settles like evening light across a table. If these strands formed a single daily fabric, which thread Would you hold first, so the whole cloth could begin to take shape? We have walked past the city gate and weighed thoughts on honest scales. We have stood in a garden after rain, watched a water wheel turn with quiet fidelity, and rested beneath a roof held by steady pillars. Along the way, a different kind of positivity has taken shape. Not a mask that cracks under pressure, but a practiced strength that breathes through the chest and steadies the hands. The body knows when truth is honored. The mind softens its grip. The spirit remembers its lamp and lets the light reach the corners that once felt unreachable. You have not been asked to outrun your storms. You have been seen in the middle of them and welcomed as you are. The ache that visits in the dark has been given a name and a safe room. The voice that once rushed to condemn has learned a calmer sentence. The circle around you has begun to mirror the future you are choosing. None of this is spectacle. It is quiet craftsmanship of the soul. It is practical spirituality that respects the science of your nervous system and the mystery of your heart. There will be days when the wind rises and the old story knocks at the gate. On those days, the trained guards know their work. Accuracy before alarm, usefulness before drama, alignment before impulse. Inside the walls, tenderness is not fragile, joy is not naive, sorrow is not a threat. Each takes its rightful place, and together they create a climate in which courage can breathe without forcing itself. The inner city remains supplied because the small rotations continue, faithful and unhurried. Hold the image of your life as a house that others may enter long after these hours have passed. A place where truth is a pillar, and mercy is a pillar, and discipline is a pillar. And under that roof, your presence becomes shelter. There is nothing loud about this vision, yet it carries weight. It changes how a sentence is spoken and how a choice is made. It changes how you meet your own eyes at the end of the day. Think true. Speak wise, walk with the wise. Let these words be the bell that brings you home when the world pulls at you. When they ring, the breath returns and the path beneath your feet becomes visible again. This is the quiet that remains when moods move on. This is the strength that lasts when applause fades. This is the kind of positivity that does not perform, it builds. If your mindset became a house for those who come after you, what room will you build now?